Hi everybody, my name is Finn Reynolds, and today I will be teaching you a little bit about responsible decision making and executive function. So, first of all, what is executive function? Executive function, as defined by our lovely grade teacher Pipeline, is the cognitive process that organizes thoughts and activities, prioritizes tasks, manages time efficiently, and makes decisions. Now, why is this so important? This is because a lot of the things we do on the daily to weekly basis have to do with executive function. This is the thing that makes sure that you stay organized. It's basically where, when, and how things get done and how your brain does that. So this includes when things are due, when things are supposed to happen, how things are done, how to get started with things. Basically, what happens is many children have difficulties with these things as they get older, and those difficulties may be messy bedrooms or school bags or disorganized planners, having problems prioritizing, identifying when things need to be done, losing things, taking things out of order, forgetting things, really just things like that. So, how executive function relates to responsible decision making. This is because executive function has a lot to do with your self-awareness, inhibitions, nonverbal working memory. This includes things you read and see. Also your verbal working memory, meaning things you hear, your emotional self-regulation, self-motivation, and planning and problem solving. Unfortunately, if you do not work on these things as you get older, it becomes a difficulty. This is especially difficult in childhood, and it will be especially difficult for our students. It's super important for learning to have a foundation in an SEL, and that we teach our students that having a effective executive function and responsible decision making can be really helpful. A lot of the things that we understand now is that difficulties with executive function are linked very closely to learning challenges and behavior problems. This includes emotional and behavioral disorders, neurodevelopment disorders, including ADHD, autism spectrum disorders, and learning disabilities. Fortunately, executive function skills can be influenced positively, but also negatively. But this means that a supportive, high quality early education and practice can help improve students' executive function. Unfortunately, this also means that things like stress, living in poverty, disadvantages associated with poor executive function can all be things that make it worse. So, when the student is making poor decisions, this can be about executive dysfunction. This is things like procrastination, difficulty starting or finishing things, difficulty regulating emotions when frustrated or stuck, being too anxious when routines change, losing things, being disorganized, or being impulsive. Some things that could make it worse is embarrassing them in front of their peers. This is the number one thing we want to avoid as teachers, is embarrassing our students in front of our peers. This is not a good way to make sure our students learn, and is actually something that discourages them from participating in general. Another thing we want to avoid is asking them to explain why they made a poor decision. This is because they might not know why. This is another thing that affects executive function, is that the students might not know why they just made a decision. Another thing is shaming them for not being able to control their actions. Just like previously stated, they might not know why. Some strategies that you can use in your classroom is to keep a daily schedule posted, write homework in the same spot, teach and practice routines, give many deadlines on projects, integrate teaching executive function skills within the content, explicitly state when important information is shared, give organization time at the end of class, give time checks during working sessions, reduce distractions around the room, give brain breaks throughout the day, stock a classroom office, and let kids work through their own challenges. This helps your students have a really good pathway to succeed and gives them even more opportunities to learn on their own. Also, something that you can do is being able to work with your students and not against them. You want to attempt to understand your students individually so that you know how to teach them. This is about finding what motivates them and using that to your advantage. This means creating challenges for them that they can achieve, like tiny goals that you can set for them. Most people that have difficulties with executive function will have difficulties finishing tasks, even when they're important, that will get stuck in distractions like doodling or drawing or things that they're doing in class. They'll have problems jumping between projects without making any real progress. They sometimes will get overwhelmed by endless to-do lists and responsibilities, and can also get stuck in repeating cycles of frustration, self-doubt, and last-minute stress. So, what you want to do is you want to understand your students. You want to help them to build practical strategies in your classroom to improve their focus and organization. You want to attempt to reduce overwhelm and procrastination. And you want to strengthen your relationships through better communication and create a routine that they can follow. Some changes that you should start to see are your students completing tasks more regularly without the feeling of overwhelm. They should be able to better manage their time and responsibilities effectively. They should be able to reduce their distractions and improve focus. They should have a more organized space and system that makes more sense for them. They should be able to have a better relationship with you and their peers, be able to strengthen all of those by improving the communication and follow through. And they should be able to gain confidence not only in their ability, but in themselves. Something that can help your students is having a daily objective that they can move to, and also a visual representative for them to see their overall progress throughout the year. Another thing we need to worry about as a teacher is our own executive function. As a educator, we are most of the time running our own curriculum in our own classroom all the time. This means we have to do things like establishing clear routines and structures, explicitly teaching things like executive function to our students so that they can see that we are portraying it ourselves, but also that we're showing them what we're doing, incorporating visual aids as reminders, prioritizing time management strategies, encouraging self-reflection and metacognition, practicing mindfulness techniques, and actively managing our own workload as well as our students and stress levels. Something that I mentioned earlier is metacognition. This is a strategy that you could use, for example, with a younger student, where you would see that they're missing a pencil, and you would walk over and say, I see that you're missing a pencil. You would need a pencil to complete this assignment. Where could you find one in the classroom? And they would be able to internalize those questions and ask them for themselves on a different day where they were missing a pencil again, and then be able to go and find one on their own. This is an example of displaying the steps or questions that they would need to ask themselves. Time management is specifically used for things like posting schedules, having timers around, having schedule breaks in little blocks, or just having activities be specific times every time you do them. As a teacher, we need to understand that long-term assignments are usually the things that are particularly challenging for students with deficits in executive function. A way to get around this is by directly teaching those students how to map out the larger portions of these assignments into smaller, more achievable goals. Another thing that you should do in your classrooms is review previous things before moving on to new things. There are some times where you would need to just move on, but you need to give your students the opportunity to review their previous things, even if it's just like a quick pop quiz or a quick presentation of like things you learned in the last week. This is a great way to improve executive function in your students. Another way is teacher interaction. You need to make sure that you're checking in with your students frequently enough to know if they have deficits or if they need more help in different areas. Another thing you can do is offering environmental support. This is like daily schedules, visual support, minimizing clutter in your classroom. Having the least amount of distractions in your classroom is a big help, and it poses a great potential for growth. Executive function does take time. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight, especially in younger children and adolescents, because our brains are still growing. Since birth until about 25 if you're a neurotypical individual, and about 32 if you're not. Everybody's brains are growing all the time. Your executive function is always changing, and we always have the potential for growth. Well, just a quick summary to wrap it up, talking about what can help in executive function and responsible decision making. We have things like having a daily schedule posted, writing homework in the same spot, teaching practice routines, mini deadlines, integrating teaching, the skills, explicitly stating important information is shared, giving information as time at the end of class, giving time checks during work schedules, reducing distractions around the room, giving brain breaks throughout the day, stock the classroom office, and letting your kids work through their challenges. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day.